On today's show, Martha Bakes, we're going to learn about muffins and popovers. My favorite, which is fresh blueberry muffin, made either with Jersey blueberries or Maine blueberries. And the popovers, well, the classic popover that's served with jam and butter and tea in the afternoon, or this cheesy, gigantic popover that can be eaten as is or split and filled with a fried egg, some bacon, and creamed spinach. All of this and more today on Martha Bakes. This is a great recipe for blueberry muffins. This is loaded with blueberries. And the topping is crunchy sugar and mace. And muffins can be topped with a sugar like this or with wonderful crumbs like a New York crumb cake. Now, before you even do anything, you want to make your crumb topping, if you want a crumb topping. And it's half a stick of unsalted butter. Just cut it and put it in a little pan like that. Put it on a very low flame. You want to cool the melted butter just a little bit, so do it now. And I have some already done, nicely melted. And 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. This is a delicious crumb topping. It's sort of the kind of crumbs on a New York crumb cake. Light brown sugar, and we need half a cup. And make sure you pack it. Now, once you open that little plastic bag in which it's packaged, it's kind of important to either decant it into a container like this with an airtight cover. It tends to harden up a lot and will be like a brick if you don't treat it well. A half a teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I love cinnamon so much, and you know, it's really good for you. And that is basically it. Break this up, stir with a whisk, and then add your melted cooled butter. Notice I switched from the whisk to the rubber scraper. The whisk will get all glopped up with the crumbs, so it's easier, I think, to use the rubber scraper or a wooden spoon. See how it's getting those big lumps that you want? That's it, basically. And now I'm going to make the batter for the blueberry muffins. Sift together 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 cups and 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And now we're going to cream 6 tablespoons of butter at room temperature with 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Once this is creamed, we add 1 egg and 2 egg yolks. Notice the color of my eggs. It's so beautiful. Bright, bright yellow. I have about 200 chickens, and the chickens lay healthy, gorgeous eggs, very nutritious. They're raised organically, the chickens. They are fed organic corn. They get to feed on all the scraps from the garden, too. And the grass cuttings. When we cut our grass, all the grass is collected and thrown into the chickens. They love it. So, okay, so this is getting creamed. Add a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Here's 1 teaspoon. And we need 1 cup of whole milk. So this is going to be added to the mixture alternately with the dry ingredients. See with the clear bowl how nice it is to look in and see what's there. Oh, it's so great. We can just add this on low. And you don't want to overbeat these muffins, so do this quickly. And then a little bit of milk, a little bit more flour, milk, there's your basic hard work. Wasn't very hard, was it? So simple. So here we go. The mixer has done its job. Just stir this up so that there is no excess flour. And 2 cups of deep, ripe blueberries. So a generous amount. And mix this up. This has a lot of gorgeous blueberries. And they're ready to put into paper liners. These are pretty, these blue ones for blueberries. Aren't those pretty papers? This recipe yields 1½ dozen delicious blueberry muffins. Heaping scoop almost to the top. This is a 2½ ounce scoop. It saves so much time to use an ice cream scoop like this. Now, before I put the crumb topping on, let me show you another creative idea. I love the combination of granulated sugar and freshly ground mace. Mace is the outer webby shell of a nutmeg. They're floral and spicy, and they grow really well with blueberries. And I'm just sprinkling that on top. A generous amount. There. This is the crumb topping. Don't skimp on the crumbs. And these muffins will cook at 375 for 25 to 30 minutes. I check them at 25 minutes just to make sure. Well, it's 27 minutes if the muffins are done. Look at that. Cool these on racks and serve them warm or room temperature. They're good for at least 8 hours. The classic popover is huge, it's light, it has a great big hole in the middle, and it is wonderful with any kind of jam and butter. For popovers, you need a popover pan like this, or some big custard cups. These you can get pretty much at any cookware store, at any big cooking department in a department store. And I have softened butter. This is butter that's even softer than room temperature, and a pastry brush. Generously butter the pans. Go around and go up over the edges too. Now have on hand an oven that's preheated to 425 degrees, hot. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, done. And now 1½ cups of all-purpose flour with 1½ teaspoons of salt. And again, I'm using coarse salt. Whisk that in and mix in 1½ cups of milk. And this is 1½ cups. I'm using organic milk. I love it. And then whisk this. And to this, we're going to add 3 large eggs. You can just break the eggs right into the batter. Mix it well. Okay, so that's it. And you're going to pour the batter into the center of each of these pans. And I'm going to fill half full. This should make exactly enough for 6. And notice if you fill them to the very, very top, you're going to have a fallen over popover. Now this is going to go into the oven at 425 for 20 minutes. Reduce the heat after 20 to 350 and bake for another 20 minutes. 40 minutes, you have the best popovers. Notice I'm putting it in the lower third of my oven, in the center, because these are going to pop, and you don't want them popping up to the top of your oven. Now, while those are popping in the oven, I want to show you another version of the popover. Cheese popovers. It's amazing how they taste. Now you remember the other popover uses cold milk. This popover uses warm milk. And we have to have 2 cups of milk. Put the milk on a low flame, bring it up to a simmer, and I already have one done. We need 2 cups of all-purpose flour and add 2½ teaspoons of coarse salt. Just sift that, just to get out any lumps. Now 4 large eggs into the bowl of your mixer. fresher, the bigger, the better for popovers. Okay, so. And you're going to temper the eggs with the hot milk. Temper slowly to avoid cooking the eggs. There, that's good. Now add your dry ingredients. A little at a time. And again, you don't want to overbeat. I think that's great. Okay, so now this is hot, and your hot pan has been preheating in the 350-degree oven. Here they are. This recipe calls for the all-purpose vegetable spray. Pour evenly into the 6 pans. They start to cook pretty much immediately since those pans are really hot. It's fun to get a recipe that's slightly different and uses slightly different techniques. There. I'm going to need 5 ounces of grated Gruyere cheese. It looks like a lot of cheese, but it's really the right amount. Looks like it's going to overflow. It doesn't. It smells so good. Put this in a 350-degree oven, preheated, for about 15 minutes. Rotate the pan and continue baking for another 35 minutes. My popovers are just about done. The first batch. Oh my gosh. See, they pop. I don't really ever get tired of watching the shape, the size, the glory of those steaming popovers. Wow, do those look good. Let them cool off just a little bit and get these out of the pan and into a nice linen towel and serve with your favorite jam and some wonderful country butter. Really delicious. Popovers with jam, a great afternoon snack. I'm going to make the spinach filling that goes inside the cheese popovers. Fry up a couple eggs, cook a little bit of bacon, and you'll see what an impressive and delicious filling that is. Now this is a beautiful organic bacon. Look how much meat is on that bacon. That's what you want to look for when you're buying bacon. Get this on a low flame. I always cook bacon in a pan like this, and during cooking, turn it over. You can even get rid of a little bit of the bacon grease. You can also fry the eggs in the bacon grease if you're so inclined. And light the flame. Okay, so that's enough for 2 per popover. Now the spinach. Just picked from the garden, really beautiful bright green spinach. This has been washed and just shaken dry, and you can just pile it into a saute pan like this and put it on a low heat. Has enough water in the leaves, and it'll cook down in no time. Nice bright green garden spinach. So in a nice big spacious pan like this, the bacon took 3 or 4 minutes on each side, turning it twice. And because it's so lean, it cooks faster. It's really nice. Okay, so look at this. The spinach is completely steamed. And we can put this into our cheesecloth. I can just use this. I have a bowl lined with a muslin cloth. We're going to put the spinach in here and squeeze it dry. You don't want soggy, wet spinach for the popovers. And then just, it's very, very hot. So you might want to use a wooden spoon or something to press. So that big bowl of spinach is reduced to kind of a sad little amount, but strong and flavorful. I'm gonna let that sit while I chop up a shallot. So you really need just 1 medium shallot, finely minced. That looks good and it smells really good. The spinach pan has a tablespoon of butter. Let that cook until it's just transparent. And it's 1.5 tablespoons of flour. Stir that in. And the bechamel sauce gets 1.5 cups of whole milk. Some people use cream. Milk works just fine. And grate a little bit of fresh nutmeg. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to thicken. Just add your spinach. A little bit of salt. And maybe a little bit of pepper. And this should be warm when you use it in the breakfast dish that we're about to create. So just keep it on a low flame. If you really have to keep it for a while, you can just put this pan in another pan of simmering water, and it'll keep it nice and warm. Okay, now fry the eggs. Get about a tablespoon of butter melted. It's getting hot. Break your eggs. And if you let the first egg just cook a little bit, it will stay separate from the other eggs that go into the pan. Nothing like a farm fresh egg. A little salt, a little pepper. I'm not even going to turn these over. And our last egg. And we will start assembling. Okay, so this is the popover. Slice it in half. This looks so good. A spoonful of spinach in each half. And then the fried egg. And crisscross the bacon over the top. What do you think? Cheese popovers with creamed spinach, fried eggs, and bacon for your next brunch or breakfast party? I hope so. I grow so many blueberries here on the property. I made a double batch of this fantastic blueberry preserve. That's so simple and very delicious with popovers. This is a simple French method that I learned from a wonderful, wonderful jam maker. And the secret to her jam making is that this fruit either macerates in sugar and lemon juice overnight, or you cook it and then chill it overnight, then cook it to the right thickness or right temperature so that it actually gels. No pectin, no surto, nothing additional added to the jams or jellies. And I love this method, and the fruit tastes like the fruit. We need 2 1/4 pounds of blueberries. For this many berries, 3 3/4 cups of granulated sugar. A shallow pot is better than a deep pot for making jams and jellies. It cooks faster and everything heats to the same temperature. And the juice of 1 small lemon. This little reamer or squeezer is fabulous. Also very good for lemonade. Isn't that a beautiful one? It really is strong and extracts so much of the juice out of a piece of citrus. Give this a stir and put it on low flame and just let all of this start to cook. You'll be surprised how much juice actually runs out of these juicy blueberries. And once this becomes cooked and the sugar dissolves, it goes into the refrigerator overnight. And that's what I have right here. All these berries have been soaked overnight. Now all I need to do is bring it back to a boil and let it simmer until it reaches about 221 degrees. That's when the blueberries will start to gel. It can take about 10 to 15 minutes. These pint-sized ball jars have been sterilized in boiling water for about 30 minutes. I've also sterilized the lids and rings. So when you're trying to fill jars, this is a very handy little thing. Just put that in the top of the jar. It keeps the screw tops very clean. And we're just going to pour right into the jar this delectable blueberry fruit. Oh boy, does that look good. Put the top on, and you then put the ring on and hold down the center of the top with your finger and screw tightly. Let cool, and you're gonna have blueberries and the taste of blueberries all year long.